everybody's going to trickle in. 7 o'clock is early. It's still light outside.
This is what we're going through?
Yes. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what page in a minute.
Is that the book?
You need one?
I have it.
You have one?
I'll have one. I didn't bring it. Wasn't sure which one was it.
Wait just a couple more minutes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvaro.
Amen.
So my wife is writing up a thing for the GoFundMe page.
Oh, she did. She think that platform.
She did it. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it. That's
Okay.
the platform to go on.
Right.
It's just you have to make it the right
Oh, yeah.
presentation.
Good.
So she's really good at that. She did a draft. I have to go over it. I'm gonna send it to the guy who's editing the book.
Okay.
Who looked at it? My friend in Israel, who's gonna
Awesome.
like polish it up.
There's a
I
place
spoke with my lawyer friend.
Yeah.
He can't do it because he's not like Texas ordained or whatever you call it.
Oh,
Right. That's what his
But
line
what did he
was.
say just from his legal
I
mind?
can send it to another one.
Did he say it was like that?
It's definitely doable. It's just
Okay.
he can't do it
Why don't
because
we,
he's not Texas.
Maybe we can. We don't even need that option. But at least I just want to make sure Laura said that can be done for someone to basically.
Oh, he said it can be done. I believe so.
Okay, there's no legal issues around that. Okay. So
You talk about this book that you're writing and teaching to us at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah,
I want to get it.
we have to get it out.
Published.
People could get a lot of use out of it, I think.
So
So it's
All
worth
right.
it. Okay,
No.
another person who's not on summer break. What's your name?
Stav.
Dub?
Stav.
Stav?
Yeah, like the season.
Are you Israeli?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Do you know Moshe and Anat Chen?
Sure.
I'm their daughter.
You're Moshe Chaim's daughter?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not, I can't believe it. I didn't know they had a big daughter. Wow.
Yeah.
They look so young. Where are you? You've been here the whole
No,
time?
I go to boarding school in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Wonderful. So what
Yeah.
grade are you in?
And then going into 10th grade.
Whoa.
Yeah. And,
I thought you'd be a senior in college,
Oh.
really. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Okay. Nice. Okay. I'm sure some people are going to trickle in at the nice, convenient Jewish time. But we're not going to wait for them, even though they got to come in. Oh, excuse me, pardon me, while I'm recording. Rabbi Wolbe, he says, when you're recording, nobody could talk, right? That's how he likes his things, because he wants to put it up on a podcast.
Oh,
Good luck with all
that's
that.
the question I have.
Yeah.
Is this stuff taken down from like the SoundCloud?
Why?
Like Tikkun Zo.
It should be there. It's not there anymore?
I tried like a couple times.
I didn't pay my membership, so it could be that they... But I just got a like recently, so somebody found it.
Because I was trying to listen to some of those classes and it didn't.
Maybe they did, because I didn't pay my dues, because I want them shifted all over to
'Cause It
podcast.
still comes up as being in the library, but then when I try to like click on anything like the Tikkun Zohar or
Yeah.
whatever, then it like says there's nothing in there.
Touche.
so they're going to be.
But now they're showing their stuff in it. No, it says no tracks here yet.
So you're going to move these to the Returning Light podcast that you have set up, or something new?
Some are going to be returning light, but the ones that I'm doing with Torch are going to go on Torch. I'm going to do a dual track.
Well, like,
Because the things that I'm doing for returning light are not Shaykh or Torch. I don't think they'd want
but his podcasts are not.
What's
They're
Or
wrong?
not?
like Rabbi Yaakov always. You go to his podcasts are. I mean, it's not how he has his stuff. Let's see if he has.
It's not Total Torch?
No.
Really?
Like, yeah, nowhere. Marshall Podcast, 4101, just has his name.
Yeah, but maybe when you go into the if you press on it, there's not like something about his bio or anything like that?
Yeah, but no, I mean, that's how they have this stuff. You know.
What's total light?
The returning light.
The returning one.
Yeah, it's a 501c3 that I inherited from my father-in-law. Sechusi Yagain Aleinu. He and I have a website for it, but once again, it's under construction. Again. Whatever. It's in process.
What's the good of
It's all a work.
if
You know, I got like a lot of things on my plate, thank God. So Baruch Hashem, I'm able to just sit here with y'all.
Do you
Okay.
know, I believe you do know, just a second. Footnik.
Sure, Nachum Futnik is my man.
Right, well, he's giving a class on Sundays at the same time as yours.
I know, what can I
you
do?
give yours later?
Absolutely not. You can talk to the rest of the chevra. What time is his class until?
His class is from 10 to 11:30.
If I'd started at 11:30, you still wouldn't make it because he's over at, where is he, at Beth Yeshurun?
Yep.
Sorry, man.
Can't do it.
I didn't know
at all.
that. It was classes on that hour.
And he can't do it any other time, because he's.
Yeah, he's
at
teaching the
home.
SWAT team, and then he's sword fighting with the
Right,
Indians, and then
right.
he's at a kung fu match, and then he's,
He
you
does,
know, and
he
he's
has
taking
all
cold
that.
showers with
Oh my
Wim
God,
Hof.
sock puppets.
You know, this guy, he's everywhere, everything. This guy's, he was the guy who needs to work on you. That guy. You get Nachum to work on you.
Okay.
You arrange a time where you can come in and he's got time. He's a busy guy, but for you, for me, and for you, he'll do it. For me.
Do what?
Okay? He gets people out of a lot of pain.
Oh,
Physical as well as all the other levels. He does. He's very
did he
good.
used to be a chiropractor?
No.
Right now he does neuro-linguistic programming.
All that.
NLP.
All that. He does all that stuff. All right. We ready to go? We're not waiting anymore. Okay? Let's see. Okay. Welcome to the Kabbalah podcast. I'm your host, Rabbi Cohen. Going to lead you through the 7 Sefirot tonight. The lower 7 Sefirot is always something that we always consider to be the most tangible, thank God. It's going to start on page 33. 33, we're going to start with the first 3 Sefirot, and we're going to understand the whole array of the Sefirot all the way down from Chesed to Malchut. And here, why it's more tangible is because, as you see, our creation, the way we're set up, is going to take the form of these 7. As we know, 7, we're already familiar with the number 7, right? 7 days of the week, right? Right? So we're going to see these 7 and how they play a role, not only externally in the world, in creation, but also within us. Okay? But first, we have to introduce the characters of the play. Okay? So we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is called Chesed. Okay? So Chesed, as I've explained before, as you see in the diagram on page 33, that we're going to have here the first 4 Sefirot and then there's a line, and then there's a lower 7, because we always distinguish between the first 3 are mental Sefirot, and then of course the lower 7 are always associated with emotional Sefirot or midot or character traits. Okay? So Chesed obviously means kindness, literally. But what does it have to do with? What is this energy? Okay? So here I wrote down love, altruism. It's really what it means. Unconditional giving. It is expressed through the first day of creation. Okay? As in that we know that the first day of creation, what happened? God said, let there be light. See, each one of these 7 is going to have a corresponding energy that we might be familiar with. Okay? So we know that the first day of creation, Hashem said, let there be light. And the light just kept going. The light existed. Okay? No boundaries. Not until day 2 was there ever a boundary. The light was just extending, extending, extending. That is Chesed. It relates to Abraham, our father. As we're going to see, all of these Sefirot relate to who we call the 7 shepherds. Okay? There were 7 tzaddikim, 7 righteous people who lived. And these 7 righteous people succeeded in doing something, in fixing something. What did they fix? You see, since Adam in the Garden of Eden, when he sinned in the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so what happened, him and all the subsequent generations caused the divine presence to split. In other words, there's less and less and less of God in the world. In the Garden of Eden, there's a lot of God. Thank God. Okay? But through the sin in the Garden of Eden and all the subsequent incidences that happened in the later generations, Cain kills Abel. And then you have the generation of the flood. Then you have the generation of the dispersal. Then you have the generation of Enoch. All right? Of Enoch. Right? So all of these things succeeded because the people were acting bad. Basically drove God, or at least his presence, at least the experience of God's presence, basically out of reach, out of touch. Okay? Then came 7 unique individuals, the Magnificent Seven. This is the real Magnificent Seven. Not Yul Brynner, okay? The real Magnificent Seven, and brought down all of these expressions of God in the world. Avram Avinu brought down the first one to bring down God's love. He was the ultimate love guru. Tents open on 4 sides, right? So the guest would not have to walk around to get to his tent, right? Ran out to go greet people. Slaughtered cows just to give them tongues, right? Total extension to the other, beyond, okay? He had a fallout, though, by the way, because you can't have too much love, right? Too much love is no good, okay? Like I explained before, you have the 3 columns in this array, right? You have the right column, you have the left column. The right column is going to be like that chesed, that giving, like our right hands. Like all the mitzvahs that we have to do it with our right hands. When the priest is in the temple, he has to do all of his service with the right hand. When we dress our bodies first, we dress with the right hand. When we wash ourselves, you wash the whole right side of your body, and then you do the whole left side of your body. When you put on your shoes, you put on your right shoe first, and then your left shoe.
And you take
Everything is right by us, okay? You got a question?
How do you take off your left shoe in order to put on
We're
another
not-
pair of shoes?
Madam, you take off both shoes and then you put on your other
But
shoes.
then your feet are on the floor and
That's-
they get dirty.
It's okay. We live in the world, thank God. Okay. Okay, so Chesed Avram Avinu is the expression that he brings of God's will in the world, that God is a God of love, something that nobody else really ever dreamed of it, okay? He also was the person who basically said, God cares about what we do, and he's involved. And people couldn't buy that either. What? Me, little insignificant me? Right? I make a difference? Oh, you do. Okay? So, that was Avram Avinu. Okay? Chesed, kindness. So in comparison to the body, it's the right hand, totally outgoing. The downside is one can end up caring too much what others think, right? And can lead to a total loss of identity. And in terms of colors, because there are 7 colors in the spectrum, it's related to the color of white. Okay? Like too much love also resulted in Abraham having a fallout. Who's Abraham's fallout? Ishmael. Ishmael is the ultimate spoiled child. They say that Abraham never chastised Ishmael. He never got on his case. Obviously no discipline. And so therefore Ishmael, to this day, is like that spoiled child who feels that they have the whole world coming to them. And they don't have to share with anybody. And therefore this is how their attitude is until this day. Okay? They don't have a limitation to cut off. Unless you'd like take a stick and then you smack them. Okay? That's a different portion. Okay? That's chesed. And that's the right column, and that's here. Okay? Avram Avinu. On the other side is Gevura. That's restraint, control, fear, forces of judgment. The second day of creation, the firmament. The second day of creation, what happened? God said, what? Right? Divided the waters on the second day of creation. God did not say ki tov. He did not say that it was good on the second day of creation. That's why Mondays are so hard for most people. Monday is like day 2, right? It's very hard to say ki tov, okay? Not that we do say it, we say it and we thank God all the time, but Mondays, okay? The waters were divided. God did not say in the Parsha of Genesis that it was good. Because you're dividing waters. He divided. God is about unity. Right? But here, unfortunately, God had to tell the light that was going and going and going, that he said on the first day, let there be light. He had to say, stop, die, enough. Right? He had to cause the light to be constricted, delineated, disciplined. Okay? The firmament. God created the firmament. Okay? The firmament is a stratosphere, a level. Stop until here. Okay? And that relates to Yitzchak, who's our Yitzchak Avinu, our father. Because Yitzchak, his way that he brought down the level of service of God is what we would call a state of awe. Okay? Abraham is love, and Yitzchak, they call it in Hebrew, yirah, fear. But fear has its own kind of connotation when you translate it into English. But yirah really is having a respect for God. It has a reverence, meaning you walk into a huge synagogue, right? It has reverence to it, right? If you walk into a really, really, really big one, right? These places have reverence to it because of their awesomeness, okay? The Grand Canyon, awesome. It delivers a certain experience of whoa, okay? So it's reverence. So Yitzchak was the ultimate expression of relationship with God in a way of discipline, in a way of reverence. That's why he's called Yirah, okay? Fear. He is disciplined. He was low-key. If you look in the Chumash, there are so few verses about Yitzchak because he was a different kind of expression of God, low-key. Thanks for raising your hand.
Problem. If Yitzchak was very disciplined, then how could he have brought up a son like Esav, or did he use too much discipline on Esav that he rebelled?
Perfect.
Or is that-
Okay. So Asa, so the fall Yitzchak, he's the left column. Okay? Left column is always associated with judgment. Okay? And what happens is when you have yira, fear, right? And it goes out of control, let's say, too much yira. What happens too much yira? Okay? He had a fallout. Yitzchak's fallout was Esav. What is the result of that fallout? Okay? The fallout of Esav is outside fears. Esav developed the idea or the concept that he brought to the world. It's negative, because it's not Yitzchak. Yitzchak brought the positive relationship with God. The only thing to fear is God. But Esav came and he took that quality of fear and he made people be afraid of us because we are Esav and our business is death. We're in the business of making collections, and if you don't give us what we want, we will kill you. Okay? Luca Brasi and all of his buddies, right? The Godfather, Esav. They brought fear, external fears, into the world. And not only just the fear of, let's say, of someone else hurting you. Talking about any fear other than fear of God is those external fears. Okay? That Esav helped to bring into the world. Fear is the killer, right? So those fears, external fears, is what Esav is responsible for. When we are confronted with an outside fear, an external fear, it's a great opportunity for us. Happened to me the other day. All of a sudden I'm trying to pray, and all of a sudden I get these fears. It's like, pop into my head. A situation pops into my head, right? It happens, and I'm like, it's disturbing me, because fear grips you on the inside. A what if, right? What if, right? So I use that according to the technique of the Baal Shem Tov is God gave it to you, that external fear, in order for you to elevate it to its source. And then, in other words, elevate it to its source is you say, thank you, God, for giving me this external fear. And thank you, God, for giving me now the opportunity to know that I'm not supposed to be afraid of that. I'm really supposed to only be afraid of you. Not afraid of you in that way. I'm only supposed to be in awe of you. So thank you for that feeling. And now help me now, please, God, to elevate it, that I should use that only in awe of you. Yeah.
is a little bit random, but it has to do with Gevurah. Okay. So, last class you said that the seventh sphera is the feminine sphera.
That's Malchut at the bottom, yes.
Malchut, right. So I read, and I wanted to ask you about it, is that I read that Gevurah is a very feminine thing because, like, hair represents Gevurah and therefore women grow out their hair. I don't know. And it's like, that's what I heard. I don't know.
I'll get
I
to
read
it.
about
Hold on to that.
All right.
It's on the left side.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yaakov will be well. Edit that. You don't have to pause it.
No, it's okay. I'd rather do this.
Okay.
Because I don't know if he'll edit it. He doesn't have time.
Okay.
He'll give me to do it.
So, so it's not really about. It sounds instead of like fear. What it is that if you're afraid of something, you think it has power over you. So it's assigning power to other things. So maybe reframing it from have fear of you to know that there's no other power but you.
Okay,
Is that
I love that. I love that framework. That framework is really awesome because really, you're right. Obviously, fear means you're giving power to something else other than God.
Right.
I think that's beautifully said. So therefore, what happens is that's like idolatry, right? So therefore, because you're giving power to something else, you're thinking something else other than God has power over you, right? So that's a fear of.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore what you have to do is you have to hook it up to say there's nothing but nothing else has power over me except God. So therefore you're hooking it up right up to the right place, but you have to do it and you have to feel it. And you have to elevate it. Obviously Hashem threw this external fear at you in order for you to elevate it to that position. In order for you to come to the realization, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense that there's nothing else other than God, so nothing else has power over me, not even people. By the way, that was really Yosef's test. And I believe that Rabbi Shalom Arush says he didn't pass it. He didn't pass it. What do you mean by Yosef's test? When the brothers took him out of the pit and sold him, he pleaded with them. That was a mistake. It's not to plead with them. Don't sell me. They can't hurt you. They can't do anything. He should have went directly to God. Now, the rest of his whole subsequent years in Egypt, he turned it around. To where he can stand in front of Paro, and Paro says, I hear you interpret dreams, and he goes, I'm not the guy. I'm not me. Like, I'm the wrong guy. But if you try me, Hashem can answer peace to Paro. Try me. Try it, let's see. Yes.
Who is it that said that Joseph had the wrong thing?
Rabbi Shalom Arush.
Shalom.
In the Garden of Amunah.
I heard also too that because he pleaded with one of the other people in prison,
That was an extra 2 years. He used his words to say yes. And in those 2 years, he seriously meditated that for him, on his level, that was too much effort. Right? So when Yosef later said to the Saramashkim, to the butler, says, remember me, he had to sit 2 extra years in jail because on his level of Amunah, he should not have done a thing. God is totally in charge. Right? And we have to reach that level, by the way. The Beis HaLevi says everybody has to pick a parnasa and their relationship to their parnasa. Everything comes from God. It doesn't, and you have to be able to let go because it always comes from God. Every single little thing comes from God, right? And you do too much ishtadlus, too much effort, it backfires. Serious situation there. Yeah.
What was that name? Beis HaLevi or Beis
Beis HaLevi on the Torah. There's no translation.
Beis
Sorry.
Levi.
Levi. Yeah, Beis HaLevi. All right, so we're in Gevurah. So in comparison to the body, it's the left hand. The left hand is always involved in discipline. When it brings down in the Talmud that a person needs to chastise their son, do it with the left and pull close with the right. Okay, push with the left, pull close with the right, because the left is always associated with the weaker hand. You don't want to use too much Gevurah. Okay, usually a person's right hand is the strong hand, right? So if disciplining the child with the left hand, use the left. Use the weaker hand. Okay, that's how it flies. Okay. More introverted, as we say that there were very few verses about Yitzchak. Okay? On the other side, just to understand the nature of Gevurah, the nature of this power, It doesn't care what others think, which is kind of good for some people. Some people are too much people pleasers, right? That's not so good to be a people pleaser, because then you don't have your priorities straight, right? And then you can go 3 days without drinking water and then end up in the hospital, okay? But, so therefore the downside, though, of not caring what other people say is you're incapable of giving and receiving love, okay? Because why? You're basically, you're sawdust inside and there's no feeling, okay? So the idea of really being able to extend it to others in a positive way is somewhat restricted, okay? Rigid maintaining of identity, too rigid, okay? And it relates to the color black. So you have colors. The sphere will relate to days of the week, colors of the spectrum, and also to, as we know, the 7 shepherds. So that's Abraham and that's Yitzchak. One is on one extreme. It suffered fallout. Abraham Avinu, his fallout was Yishmael. Yitzchak here, his fallout was Esav. Okay? On the side of discipline. You need both, but you need it to be, to work in harmony. And that's when Yaakov Avinu comes. Yaakov Avinu is Tiferet. Tiferet means beauty. Harmonic beauty. Not a blending, but a perfect blend. The way you can look at Yaakov Avinu, I hate to bring from external sources, but you look at the Kung Fu sign, where you have the white, the black, and the white, right? And then you'll have in each of those, the black and the white, you'll have a little piece in the black, you'll have a little piece of white. It's a blend. It's not a mishmash, okay? It's not a milkshake where you're just grinding up your kindness and your power together. You need this and you need this, but they work in harmony, okay? The third day of creation, okay? What happened on the third day of creation? Tuesday, okay? It's a great day. Actually, God says in the third day of creation, Pa'amayim ki tov, we say. Twice he said, it is good. On the third day of creation, God created, first he created the seas and the dry land. So therefore, if you look at the seas and the dry land, it's just a big slush of a dirt clod in a bucket, right? That you swish around. No. There's dry land here, there's seas here, and they're both all together in a world. Okay? So that is like the way that the forces still have their identity, and they work in unison together. Okay? Also, what was created was the trees and the grasses. Except for, even though God created them the third day, they didn't sprout. They all came up just subsurface. They didn't break through the surface, okay? But they were there, poised, waiting, okay? But in any case, that's why God said on the third day of creation, it is good twice. It relates to Yaakov Avinu, our father. Yaakov Avinu had the right balance, okay? He had the right amount of chesed, of kindness, and the right amount of discipline, exactly in the right unison, exactly in the right balance. And that's why Yaakov Avinu gave birth to 12 children who were all balanced. Not one of them was verkrumpt. Verkrumpt means messed up. No fallouts, not like Yishmael and not like Esav. No fallouts, even though he did worry on the day of his death. Because he was going to tell him the end of days and when Mashiach is going to come and all his kids are around the deathbed and he's about to sell them, and all of a sudden he went offline, right? Disconnected. The internet was gone. His vision of the Mashiach and the end of days was gone, and he suspected that one of them had succumbed to the dark side. Okay? So therefore, they all said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And then he said, Baruch Hashem, out loud, meaning we're all with the program. Completely. All 12 sons, unbelievable tzaddikim, unbelievably righteous. Yeah.
They were all great tzaddikim, but they ended up treating Yosef. He ended up having more love towards Yosef than all the rest of the sons.
That was Yaakov Avinu's issue. You're right, there's criticism about Yaakov Avinu. We all learn from that, okay? But still, in terms of the whole picture, he was perfect, okay? He was the balance. He was the middle path. Okay? We learned there, definitely. You can't do some things, those kind of things. Yeah.
So every one of them became a tribe. none of them was out of the covenant. They're
Right.
all part of it.
Right. Right. So in comparison, going on, in comparison to the body, it's the torso. So we had right arm, left arm, and torso. Not the color gray, but a blending of the two, like I told you. Okay, and so here we have the first triad. Okay? 1, 2, and 3. Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Notice how something else that I've probably never shared with anybody, interestingly enough, as it really, if you look at those three, it's the form of a segol. Segol, in the Hebrew, is, right, a vowel, right, of 3 dots. 1, 2, and 3. That's our segol. It's a vowel, goes underneath. There's also a segol that goes on top of a letter, and usually that's the opposite, like that. Okay? The interesting thing about this is if you look at it in a certain way, and I'm going to bring something pretty dynamic, which I've never shared before, and I could be wrong with this, but if you'll notice, when you look at it in string, put these strings together, it comes out as a wave. Okay? It's a wave. And you'll see the second one is also a wave. So you got a series of wave functions. Okay? And how the energy is coming down. Don't forget the light is coming through all of these down. Okay? And then also it could be looked at as waves going up. Okay? There's waves coming down. And then there's what's going to be the returning light. Because that's called Or Yashar, is when the light comes from the top down. And then there's what's called Or Choser, is when it goes from the bottom up. Okay? So that's number 1, 2, and 3. Now we have Netzach, Hod, and Yesod on page 34. Okay, Netzach. Netzach means literally victory. Or actually they use it to conquer. Conquer with love. To overcome. The energy of overwhelming and dominance. People call it dominance also. That's how they translate it. It represents the 4th day of creation, the luminaries, and relates to Moshe. It corresponds to the right leg, which also needs the left leg to move. Okay, so I read through the whole thing because you got to string this through. This is an energy. And how do all these things all relate to each other? Okay? The 4th day of creation, the luminaries, is what happened on the 4th day of creation. Basically, God said, really, the way it is handed down is, God really created every single thing the first second of creation. Everything was already made. But it's looked at like this. Look at it as like a huge storehouse. I was going to say Amazon. Okay? As like every single thing that he created, really the first day of creation, was already set and ready to go, and on the subsequent days of creation, he brought it out. Okay? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, he brings out the planets and the stars. That's what's created the 4th day. How did the planet and the stars come about? He basically says, okay, you, sun, you're going like here, and here's how you're going to go. You, moon, you're going like this, right? You, planets, this is how you got to go. Right? And just keep going like that. And they don't deviate. In other words, he hung them there, and that's where they stayed. Okay? This is how you're going to move, this is how you're moving, and nobody deviates from the path. Everybody sticks to exactly their roles, exactly how that is dominance. You stand here, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's dominance, he's Netzach. He comes down from the mountain and he says, God says this. You got to do this, you got to do this. Actually, before he went up, right, before the whole Sinai experience, I've shared this with people, he actually took, everybody had their exact place where they needed to stand. You stand here, you the back, you nosebleed, you got front seats, right? This one here, 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 here. 2.5 million people had an exact position where they had to stand for the transmission to come and reach everybody, for everybody to receive their special portion in Torah, their unique expression, like a very well-designed machine. So basically Moshe, though, he's truth, he's dominance, he comes down from the mountain, he says, this is what God says, period. That's why Moshe at the burning bush, he had a really hard time. He had a 7-day argument with God. God wants to go take the Jewish people out. He says, my personality, I'm dominance. I'm netzach. I come down, I say it's black or it's white. You're in, you're out, right? So I don't think the Jewish people are going to be able to handle that. And God says they can handle it. You got to. Yeah, this is really the right way to go. But of course, Moshe Rabbeinu, he argues with him. Really, according to the commentaries, he's saying, I feel so bad. I'm the younger brother. My brother's older. He's already a leader. He's already a prophet. Get him. I don't speak well. 7 days of this, right? Till finally, Moshe is saying, I think we should go with the Aaron plan. Have Aaron do it, right? And God is going, Moshe plan, Aaron plan, Moshe plan, Aaron plan, Moshe plan, right? Till finally, at the end of 7 days, God goes, enough. We're going to do the Moshe Aaron plan, okay? And Moshe goes, okay. Well, God was kind of upset at this point. It's like, enough. But the problem is, when you brought Moshe into the picture, things happen. Okay, as we're going to see. But basically, Moshe represents this idea of dominance. He's bringing truth down from the mountain, and this is the truth. No empathy, like number 5. Okay? Number 5 is empathy. What is empathy? Right? Empathy is, I hear what you're saying. Okay? Most translate Hod, number 5, as splendor. Right? But really, it's better to say empathy. Aaron was the peacemaker. Aaron would, when two people are having a fight, or a husband and wife are having a fight, he'd go and listen to, he said, I hear what you're saying. Right? He empathized with people, that they felt, I hate to use the word, validated. Okay? Yeah.
Sorry to go back to Netzach, but was there a specific color representing Netzach?
I didn't write it down. I don't know what the color is. I'm sorry. I'd have to go back. For me to guess,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would guess right. Okay?
That's all right.
What about Teferet? That should be easy.
Tiferet is, no, it's not a color. Tiferet is like the mixture of black and white. Okay?
And the Sefer Yetzirah, I thought it was
We'll have
or
to
it had a color.
we'll have to check it out.
Okay.
It's good. Sorry, I didn't put it here. I don't know why. I lost it. Okay. Have to put that in the next edition. So here, the interesting thing is that it's a derivative of Gevura, because these things, the way it's done, and it's a little bit tricky, is that when we look at the right column, left column, and center column, the right column, wisdom, this chesed is a derivative of wisdom, an expression, and then a further expression of chesed is netzach. Okay? And the same thing for the left column and for the middle column as well. This is Gevura, and Gevura, the expression of Gevura is actually Hod, even though it's going to come out as a different kind of expression. Okay? It's going to kind of baffle us right now. Okay? Because if we look at what was created on this day, what was created on the 5th day of creation? Okay? Interestingly enough, the 5th day of creation was created the birds and the fish. These are the first creations that had actual free movement. You'd think it's the opposite here of what would be discipline, you think. So the idea really is, we're just going to look at it simple, okay? Really, I think the idea really is that it's just very much like they have the gene chain. There's a twist. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, even though that there's a twist here, it still functions as right column, left column, and center column. Okay? Because if you look at the idea of Hod, or empathy, okay, and what was created on that day, it seems like it's the ultimate chesed. It's the ultimate freedom. These fish and these birds now complete free movement. They're not like plants. Plants were created the 3rd day. Trees don't move. Plants don't move. Here, complete total free movement. Right? But there's a negative aspect of that. This is why it's such a really, Lag BaOmer, which is Hod of Hod, right? it's such a unique and special day, because it's like the ultimate tikkun actually comes from there, okay? Because as we see what happens when you have too much free movement, then you're really engendering a reaction that needs to come because of that too much free movement. I look at it sometimes, kids always test their parents' boundaries. I don't know, different stages, depends. It depends when. Sometimes I have teens who are constantly testing the boundaries, right? Until you get it. Once you lay that boundary and they know you sticking to it and you ain't moving, so then eventually they give in. They get it. Okay? Kids love boundaries. They do. But they need to test them, right? We need to know how far can we go. Okay? So it's kind of like the flip side of Gevura in a certain way, but it's a movement that it actually engenders an expression of Gevura. You get too much drinking, you got to stop. Too much of this, too much of that, too much, right? You got to pull back. Okay? So if you look at Hod, okay, we say it's the energy that allows an assertion of its own individuality, very much like the fifth day creation, ocean life, the fish and the birds, and relates to Aaron, who's the brother of Moses. Corresponds to the left leg, totally giving into the other person. Now that's not necessarily the positive side. Empathy is, yes, I hear you, but there's still a truth. That's the balance of it. But empathy would be very much like people who just like they empathize with this person to the degree, well, what happens with Aaron? What happened with Aaron?
Golden calf.
The golden calf. He allowed the golden calf to be created. His level of empathy, too much. And that was the problem at the burning bush. Moshe was going Aaron plan, and God was saying, I'm a little smarter than you. Do you think? Moshe plan. And Moshe, I beg to differ. I think Aaron plan. Till it was a Moshe Aaron plan. There's a consequence of the Moshe Aaron plan, and that's the consequence, the golden calf. When Moshe was up in the mountain, and then all of a sudden Aaron was trying to stall out, he's giving in. You can't give in. Too much free flow, and then what happens? You end up with what's called the classic story of Lord of the Flies, right? It's a great story, Lord of the Flies. It's so awesome. I mean, I don't know what the guy was thinking about, if he was thinking the metaphor of the entire world, but it's so deep. If you're familiar with the story, it's a classic story, right? One of the only things I remember from was junior high when they made me read it, right? But it was like, come on. It's like this whole planet is just people running around thinking they're under control, hurting people, doing things in control. Eventually God's going to put his foot. And the language of the prophet is he's going to put his foot on the Har Zaysim. It's going to be game over. As soon as it's game over, then it's it. All games are gone. Right? Meanwhile, everybody's got free flow. Right? Everybody thinks these people think they're in control. These people think they're in control. Right? It's all a game. It's all a game. So here the last line is also in Hebrew the word hoda'ah. Very important. Hoda'ah. Hoda also means giving thanks. Submission, okay? Very important. Very important. As a matter of fact, it goes into, the Tikkun Zohar relates 10 psalms, 10 different types of songs are throughout the book of Psalms. 10 different types. Each one of those types is affecting a tikkun, fixing. And, of course, there is a Hodu Hashem Kitov. All the Hodus relate to this sphere here. Each one of the 10 different types of song that are in the book of Psalms relates to these 10 sphirot. So Hod, or Hodu, giving thanks. Okay? Actually, Netzach is like Purim, and Hod is Hanukkah. Okay? They all relate to holidays. Yeah.
It's on the
So
storm.
Rabbi Nachman's the one that he has with trying to
The
do
10.
a tikkun or
The
whatever.
Tikkun Klali.
Are they yes?
Yes.
Is that one from each of the different?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. The Tikkun Klali, those 10 Psalms of Rabbi Nachman, is one of these, and it definitely, that's why it's Tikkun Klali. You're fixing all the 10 sphirot. If whenever, and they do it every day. Right? And if you're going to sit and you only have, let's say, a few minutes to say some Tehillim, why not say those? Right? So, Netzach Hod. Okay? Yesod is foundation. Foundation establishes the proper relationship. So first of all, Netzach and Hod, you have right leg, left leg. Okay? Relating to the body parts. It's very important to know that because right leg and left leg need each other so much that you cannot walk without them. And you're going to see that later on, how these two really blend into being one sphera, because one so much needs the other. Yesod foundation establishes a proper relationship, the energy of giving pleasure while at the same time receiving pleasure, ultimate reciprocity. Okay? How so? It represents the sixth day of creation. Man who fulfills God's purpose. Because here is Adam, someone finally who's created on the sixth day, which is man, who's created on the sixth day. Free will. Free will means ultimate relationship. Because why? In order to have an ultimate relationship, you have to have a creation that is going to choose you. Right? God made a creation in order to have a relationship with a creation. That relationship can't be a robot. It cannot be a mannequin. It has to have free will in order to choose God, the ultimate source of everything. There has to be an other than. There has to be an illusion of evil. There has to be something else that free will creation has to choose not to do and then choose God. That's what we're here for. So therefore, that's why it represents the ultimate creation, where there's something else that can give nachas to Kodesh Baruch Hu, that I have a proper, sincere relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. In the sixth day of creation, man who fulfills God's purpose, it relates to Joseph. Joseph, of course, what happens with Joseph is he was tested in that organ, right, in the covenant, in the Brit Milah, the circumcision, right, with Potiphar's wife. That's the body part that Yesod relates to. And of course, Joseph, unbelievable, was tested and overcame the test. Because of that, he became the conduit of the entire food supply of the entire world because of that. Because I'd have a nickname for foundation. Okay? Besides that, all of the lights and the energies is flowing through. Every one of these flows through right to here. And then from here, it goes to Malchut. Okay? The man who gives the seed to the wife. But everything flows to here. It collects everything. It represents, the nickname that I give Yesod is called commitment. Commit. It is the ultimate dynamic. As a matter of fact, I remember, I hate to pull this from it, I've been, when I was in Lakewood Yeshiva, right, in Mattersdorf, in Jerusalem, somebody, I visited LA, gave me the entire tape set of Tony Robbins, right, to listen to. So here I was in the Beis Midrash, listening in headphones, in a Walkman, mind you, Tony Robbins taking notes of everything. The first rule he said, commit. Once you commit, then everything else will follow through. But the very first day, he says, commit. Commit to follow through. Commitment brings a lot of things when a person is committed. That usually you think, why should I commit myself? You're talking about in a relationship. Let's just look at a relationship, right? And the chuppah is an amazing thing. The chuppah here, the husband and wife go under this canopy, right? And they're limiting themselves. But you're under the canopy, which is the divine presence, to teach that you can't experience in God until you limit yourself. In other words, I'm going to limit myself with just this one woman, and the woman is just going to limit herself with that one man, and only then can you form an arena where you experience God, God's presence. You need the commitment, okay? So that's what it has to do with the paradigm of this, okay? So it's basically has to do with the sexual organ, okay? And Yosef and commitment and the sixth day of creation. And now we get to Malchut, okay? The seventh sphere. Malchut's the big one. Malchut is everything, okay? Malchut is the feminine principle. But she is the lost princess. Because she's the one who receives everything from above, from the tzaddik. Okay? King David, is Malchut. The seventh of these dynamic individuals who brought the Shekhinah down. Don't forget, every single generations before Avram Avinu, they were sending the Shekhinah away to 7 levels, according to the Sagacheva Rebbe, the Shem Yishmael. And each one of these tzaddikim, these holy individuals, were bringing it down until King David. Okay? So here's where the Or Hoser happens. Here's where everything happens. Here's the real playing, our real playing field. Okay? Everything else is flowing down to here. Okay? So the feminine sphere, it has nothing of its own. It receives from all the other sphirot, yet it has the power to unify all the other diverse powers. It's just, okay? Has nothing of its own. It represents the moon. You know, there are 7 planets we have in Sefer Yetzirah. The moon has no light of its own. Everything is reflective. Here's where the reflection begins. It represents the ultimate concealment of the divine for the purpose of interacting with creation. This is the place that the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, brings down. It's called the direction of the place of evil because it's ultimate concealment. It's not evil, really, but it's the place where evil can go this direction because it's receiving. It has no light of its own. It has to create that light of giving from nothing. Okay?
It receives in order to give.
Yes, it has to create that. But dynamically, it's a complete receiving. It only, in the beginning, in the phase, certain phase of it, built into its default system, it's programmed only to receive. Okay? Because it doesn't have anything to give. There's nothing beneath it to give. It's rock bottom. It represents the ultimate concealment of the divine for the purpose of interacting with creation. Because here is where we have to develop the ability of where we can give. Where God constricts himself in order to give over his kingdom to man, you have the keys. Here's the ultimate place, the ultimate dark spot. Become givers as well as receivers. Here a person has to create the ability to turn the darkness into light. Relates to King David. King David gives over this kingdom to Solomon in his lifetime. Really, King David took a fragmented kingdom and he turned it into one kingdom. It was fragmented, right? Because there was the people who were with Shaul HaMelech, right? Who was the tribe of Benjamin. And then there was Yehuda, right? And when King David came back after Shaul died, he came to Jerusalem. So it was still fragmented, and then he built the kingdom up and unified the kingdom, that was under one king, and everybody was behind him. Yeah.
But if Malchut represents receiving, then how does that kind of incorporate to David when David gave over? Like the Beit HaMikdash first.
Excellent. So here, the idea here is of what we call, there's 2 kinds of receiving. There's a receiving for the sake of receiving. That is going to the realm of evil. Total ego. And then there's receiving on the condition that you're giving through that receiving. We kind of discussed this in earlier classes with the parable of the host who brings in a guest, and he wants to give his guest, and his guest keeps pushing it off, saying, no. And then he really wants to give his guest, and the guest keeps pushing it off, till the host is in pain that he's not giving his guest. And then the guest finally realizes that, and he says, okay, I'll receive. So actually, his receiving is actually giving the host. You follow? Mm-hmm. He's receiving in the end, right? But he's actually giving through his receiving. That is where King David actually received on the condition that he gave over a full kingdom to King Solomon, who was able to then go ahead and build the temple. Okay?
It's kind of like that you can't have a giver unless there is a recipient. And so in order to be giving, you're giving like lowering your status down so that you can be the receiver in order to allow somebody else to be a giver.
So you're lowering the status down as
You're
being
like
a
you're
giver.
Like you're looking down
Right.
so that you can put yourself as a recipient so that that person has the opportunity, like you're creating a void so that they can give a gift.
Okay. You can look at it like that. Okay. So here we look at it as it corresponds to the mouth or the crown of the organ or a person's mate. Okay, the mouth, because we really say also in our mouths, our head has 6 orifices, right? 7 orifices, not 6. 7 orifices, right? These are also related to the 7 sefirot. Everything in 7s. You have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. Okay? So therefore, each one, but the mouth, there's only 1 mouth. Okay? So it's the malchut of the head. Okay? And then there's the malchut, which is a person's mate, or the crown of his organ. There's different opinions. Pregnancy as birth, and birth as a woman who receives 1 seed from a man, and she gives back a fully developed child. So King David gave a full kingdom over to King Solomon. He received it, everybody, and then received the kingship on the condition that he was going to be able to give to his son a full operating kingdom. Okay? He took a little bit of authority and gave back a powerful kingdom. He represents the Mashiach, who gives birth to a new world. And the ultimate area, like I said, this is the place why Israel is compared to the moon, Malchut, the moon, right? The moon, don't forget, on the 4th day of creation, we made an interesting question. Okay, they call it Kitrug Halavana, which really literally translates the prosecution of the moon, because God said in one statement, "Let there be 2 great luminaries," and then the statement right after this, the great one and the small one. Wait a minute, there's 2 great luminaries. Why is there a great one and a small one? It's because on the 4th day of creation, something already started to go wrong in creation. The moon came up with this: how can you have 2 kings sharing 1 crown? So God says, okay, you get smaller, right? And therefore became Malchut, or became Israel, and became the moon. Okay? So therefore Israel had to agreed to become small in the world, accompanied by the stars. The moon is accompanied by all the stars and the planets. You know, only waiting for the right time where Malchut will become totally elevated. Okay? So it represents the feminine in the idea of that we all are given this ability innate to receive. And as a child is very selfish when they're first born, in the innate ability of it, most children are very selfish. They don't want to share unless there's something in it for them. Right? Share the lollipop and I'll give you a bicycle. Okay? Right? Usually, and of course, as they get more mature and as they become familiar with Torah mitzvahs, then they're involved in giving more, practicing giving. Everything about Torah is involved in giving. Everything is about that. Okay? And so the idea really here is for us to develop our will to receive for itself into developing a will to la hashpia, to give. But you have to turn your own will to receive, your innate will to receive for itself, into being a will to receive almanat la hashpia, only in order that we're giving through our receiving. We have to take Malchut, which is a broken, fragmented, fluctuating moon, and turn it into something bright. God gave us a space for us to be co-partners in creation and create that. That's what Malchut represents. It's the lost princess. It represents emunah. It represents tefillah. Because that's where every single thing is. We are rock bottom, and the only way to go is up. Okay? With that, we'll stop. Questions? Any questions? Here you see on page 36, it gives basically the whole rundown here, so you can have a nice little view here. Like side by side, Gevura, and it gives the 7 sefirot, and then it has what happened in the days of creation, and then it has actually, we see the definition and what was created on those days. So, like I say, all of these are ways to go around and try to explain the seven sefirot. The idea is you have to become familiar with it. Once you become familiar with it, okay, so then we can understand that, like what the Baal Shem Tov says, every time you speak, you have to know what sefira are you speaking about. And all of it is for the purpose of peeling off the mask of matter, not getting so hooked into the physicality of things, but relating more into the root form. So that's the idea, is for our consciousness to always go into the root form, into the spiritual realms where these things are hanging out. And then when you're more attached to that, you're less attached to this. Okay? And then you affect a tikkun of what's going on down here more. Okay? We'll stop here. Any questions? Yeah.
So there's Mashiach ben David, and there's Mashiach ben Yosef.
Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. These two right here.
Right, so maybe one other time would tell us a little more about that.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
It's all in that
We're
one
living-
dialogue.
I think we're living right now in Mashiach ben Yosef. We've been. The era of.
My father-in-law said, each one has a challenge. I said this, I think, on Shabbos. Mashiach ben Yosef has his challenge. And because, you see, as righteous as they are, there's a challenge. There's got to be a challenge. And Mashiach ben David has his challenge. And this is what my father-in-law says, okay? Zechusa Yigein Aleinu. My father-in-law says, Mashiach ben Yosef's challenge is to relinquish the power. Because he's sitting on the throne. He's Yosef. He's sitting on that throne. Okay? And can he do that?
He knows it's his destiny to die in battle, so it's like
Whatever it is, he doesn't have to die, or
Okay.
whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be a person either.
Okay.
Could be a movement,
Okay.
but it has to be that letting go. Because don't forget, listen, I've seen it in my lifetime. I've seen it in certain situations, certain communities. There'll be a rabbi there who's been a rabbi for a long time, and it's time for him to step down, but they don't do it. They can't. They can't. They cannot relinquish control or delegate. Okay? Very difficult. Another new young whippersnapper rabbi, he's like, no, they can't do it. They have a huge block. Very hard. Mashiach ben Yosef's challenge, according to my father-in-law, is women. Okay? Just part of the pleasure. Just part of the pleasure thing. It just has to do with the pleasure thing. So that's, because here's Yehuda. Yehuda in the Bible, here he is. He's going around a long way and he sees the lady there. Okay? Right? So, Tamar, his daughter-in-law, is dressed up as a prostitute. Okay? So, listen, they all have to have their wonderful, beautiful challenges that they love. And King David, of course, he falls for Bathsheba. With Bathsheba, right? So after King David does tshuva and he comes back, he actually had his wives dress up really nicely and parade in front of him, right? And he had to overcome it. Says like he slaughtered his evil inclination like 7 times, a day, right? So in other words, he had a tremendous drive, but it has to be converted for creativity, okay, in the right way.
So you think it could be not an individual, but like a generational.
Not Mashiach ben David, according to most people.
But Mashiach.
Ben Yosef. Yes. But then again, we really don't know. I've heard somebody come and tell me Mashiach ben David, but I don't know if that's an authority. So it could also be a movement, but I beg to differ because doesn't fit with a lot of what the statements of our sages have said. Okay?
Mashiach ben Yosef is more action.